Well, Venice has introduced tough new limits on tour groups from this day forward, which is 1st of August. There will be a cap of 25 people, and tour guides also aren't allowed to use loudspeakers. Our Italy correspondent Giles Gibson has more on this.
Roughly 30 million people visit Venice every single year, taking a gondola ride along the city's famous canals, or indeed checking out some of its most iconic sites, such as St Mark's Square. But now the local authorities are cracking down on large tourist groups, which they say can block small alleys or streets or bridges within the city centre. So this 25-person cap applies to the city centre itself, as well as some of the most popular islands around Venice, including Murano, where the city's famous glass blowers are based. There are some exemptions to these rules, so children under the age of 2 don't actually count towards that 25-person cap, and also students on educational trips are not covered by these new rules. This is the latest move that we've seen from the local government in Venice to try to reduce the impact of tourism on their historic city. So in the last few years, we've seen them banning very large cruise ships from actually docking inside the city itself. That was over fears that those huge ships were actually causing damage to the city's lagoon. We've also, in the last few months, seen the local authorities introducing a small charge for day trippers coming into the city, although that policy was just a trial, and they're now trying to work out if they're going to make it a permanent measure. Now, Venice is really on the extreme end of this argument, because on certain days of the year you can actually have the numbers of tourists actually exceeding the numbers of local residents inside the city. But we have seen across Europe this summer really this growing pushback against what's described as over-tourism. So in many tourist hotspots in Spain, for example, we've seen these protests breaking out, really joined by local residents. So for example, in the city of Barcelona in Spain, we've seen protesters going out on the streets with local residents saying that tourism is actually driving up the cost of living, in particular the cost of renting a house or an apartment. And they've also been saying that tourism is putting pressure on their local services, such as public transport. Giles Gibson in Rome, reporting for DD India.